On our recent road trip to Alaska, Ginny and I, along with our friend Tom Burge, spent an amazing day of bear viewing just outside of Katmai National Park. Craig and Sarah Elg are the owners of Emerald Air Service. We left the dock at about 9 a.m. in their de Havilland Beaver float plane. Here I am putting on my waders. In this photo we have just taken off and are looking back at part of the town of Homer. Flight time to our destination was about an hour and 20 minutes across Cook Inlet. Along the way we passed close to St. Augustine, a dormant volcano. In this photo, Craig is setting up for a landing on a small lake several miles inland on the Katmai coast. Aside from Ginny, Tom, and myself, we were joined by Philippe and Patricia, who were visiting from France. We walked about 2.5 miles to the coast on an actual bear trail through shrubs and grass. Our final destination was a spot where a creek entered this bay. We sat atop these bluffs for about an hour, eating lunch and watching 6 bears down on the tidal flats. Here are a few of the bears. Notice how far out the tide is at this point. This is another view from the bluff. We then moved down to the beach. As you will see, it was very rocky, and we were told to sit close together on a low, rocky rise. As you can see, the tide is steadily rising. At this point, little fishing was occurring. Later in the day, the salmon will come in with the tide to swim up the creek and spawn. For the most part, the animals were either playing or resting as we watched at this time. This fellow, however, was digging for clams, and I might add, he was quite successful. From the top of the bluff comes a large male. Sarah recognized him from last year and called him Ferdinand. This was the first time this season that conditions were good enough for the elks to bring people to this location. We were extremely fortunate. Ferdinand is descending the bluff and passing the small waterfall at the mouth of the creek. By the way, all of the bears you're seeing in this presentation are brown bears, also known as grizzly bears. He is now in the tidal flats and looking to stake out a good fishing area. The tide continues to rise. Yes, we use telephoto lenses for many of these shots. Often, however, the telephotos were not required at all. Ginny refers to this as the stare, and it was somewhat intimidating. As the afternoon progressed, we had bears in front of us, bears in back of us, and bears on both sides. The tide was now getting to the point that the salmon were becoming visible, and the bears became far more interested in the fish than in the human intruders. Resting up to fish. That looks like a great place to scratch my itch. Ah, that feels good. As I mentioned, bears were all around the area. Hey, Tom, who's your friend? And what are you two guys looking at? I don't know what the bear was looking at, but I was watching his pals. On the bluff appeared a mother and her two cubs. They seemed reluctant to venture down to the beach due to all the other bears. The cubs suckling their mom. The threesome did not come all the way to the beach. Sarah said they would wait until the water got higher and the fish could be caught by the mom more easily. Ferdinand gets serious about fishing. He picked a prime spot where the salmon were channeled through a narrow gap in the rocks. In an hour or so, we watched him catch at least 12 large fish. The other bears were not faring as well, but would not dare to challenge him for his spot. Again, Sarah said as the tide continued to rise, there would be plenty of opportunities for all of the other bears to get their fill. The following are just some random shots of the bears. These two were involved in some type of dispute, accompanied by snapping jaws and loud roars. Another bear getting his or her itch scratched. We are back up on the bluff as it was time to leave. The hike back to the plane seemed to take longer because we were all tired and very excited. This is an aerial view of the area we had just come from. We were back at the dock by about 5:30 in the evening. All in all, it was an unbelievable experience and a day we will never forget. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch our slideshow.